morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are watching from. My name is Ty, and welcome back to another video here on Ty Talk Sports Network. Talking today about the upcoming free agency class. It is a very talented free agency class this year. A lot of great pieces, a lot of superstars, a lot of great role players available. But this is who my pick for the San Antonio Spurs. These are the 5 players that I think the Spurs should target heavily this free agency, and I think these would be amazing fits on the roster. We got 5 players that we're going to be talking about today. And before we get right into it, make sure if you guys aren't subscribed yet, go down below, hit that red button, drop a subscribe. We just hit 300 subs, so I want to thank all of you guys for the support that I've been given over these past few weeks. So like I said, if you're not subscribed, go down there, hit that button. It takes a few seconds, it's completely free, and it helps me promote my channel more and more and spread it across the platform. So, kicking it off here, we're going to start with an honorable mention, someone who I want the Spurs to go after, but I don't think he is going to be as necessary as these other pieces. The point guard, Mr. Triple-Double, Russell Westbrook. He had a great back half of the season with the Clippers, and he played occasionally well with the Lakers throughout this year. He's a fast point guard who can control the pace. He can play make at a very elite level, and he just does it all. Obviously, he's not the best shooter, especially from beyond the arc, but he can rebound, he can play make. He's pretty good defensively. All around, he's a great, well-rounded point guard that the Spurs could really use on the roster, but he is much older and not a great fit for the rest of the timeline and for Victor Wembanyama, as he is going to be coming in a matter of days. The Spurs can target better point guards, which we'll hear about later in this video. So getting on to the official list, at number 5, we've got Naz Reid from the Minnesota Timberwolves. So if the Spurs are going to go with a 1 through 5 lineup of Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Wemby at the 4, and Zach Collins at the 5, the Spurs are going to need to add center depth with only having Zach Collins. They're going to need to add more pieces to that, and Naz Reid is a great guy who can come off the bench. He's 25 years old, and he can come off the bench very well, play both sides of the floor. He can shoot the 3 ball very efficiently. He is great on both ends. Underneath the basket, has some great big man tendencies when it comes to playing behind the back basketball. He has a great fadeaway game. All around, he's just a great shooting center who can play pretty decently defensively as well. He's a great defender when it comes to around the rim. He can block shots. He really is a very underrated center in this league, and I think he could be a great fit coming off the bench with that Spurs secondary. Going into my number 4, the San Antonio native, I've got Jordan Clarkson from the Utah Jazz. He's a little bit older, but he came off the bench last year and previous years, and he can score at will. In the past few seasons, the Spurs have had Doug McDermott, who's been able to do that, especially from beyond the arc, but they need someone who can score at an untapped ability. And Jordan Clarkson can score extremely well from all 3 levels of the floor. He can handle it very efficiently. He can play make as well. I mean, overall, his offensive game is so well-rounded that there's really nothing bad about it. He's known for his shooting, but he has a very underrated game when it comes to finishing around the rim. He's very aggressive in that area, and he's got a lot left in the tank. He is a little bit older, but he can come off and play well. He averaged 21 points last year on 44 from the floor and 33.8 from beyond the arc, and he's just a crafty guard who can really do it as he pleases. And the Spurs, if they sign him, that's a great piece to come off the secondary of Jordan Clarkson, Doug McDermott, Malachi Branham, Jeremy Sohan would most likely end up on the bench if Wembanyama plays the 4, and it could be a great second unit to keep on competing in basketball games. At number 3, I've got one of the brightest young stars in the league. I've got Cam Johnson. Obviously, he was a part of the Kevin Durant blockbuster back in February, and he is another guy who can just come off the bench and do it all. I mean, he comes out and he gets buckets. He had a great season for both Phoenix and Brooklyn, and he can do it all. He is a 40% shooter from 3-point range. He's 27 years old, so he fits great with the Spurs timeline. And he can get you 30 if he's on one of those tears on a night-to-night basis. We saw how he played whenever he would be one of the lead guys in Phoenix. He a few seasons ago, he had a 40-point game and a deep game winner against the New York Knicks as the buzzer sounded. And he would be a great fit. The Spurs need a wing scorer. In the past years, they've had guys like Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan who have filled up that space, who could take it in the mid-range or beyond the arc and play a little bit of ISO ball, and Cam Johnson can do that. He's great with his back to the basket. I mean, he also is a pretty good defensively. He averages 1.2 steals per game last season, but he goes out there and he gives 110% on both ends of the floor on a night-to-night basis, and that's what the Spurs need. The Spurs are known for having guys who go out there and leave it all out on the floor, who give all the effort every single night, and Cam Johnson is one of those dudes, and he fits perfectly, I think, within the Spurs system and can play the 3 or the 4. He's very versatile in what position he can play. At number 2, I've got a guy who has championship DNA in his blood. He just declined his player option. I've got Freddie VanVleet. Obviously, the Raptors now fired Nick Nurse in the hiring of Darko Rajakovic. It seems like the Raptors are about to go into full rebuild mode. Fred VanVleet can get you 20 points on any given night. That's what he's known for, a scoring guard. He has a really great scoring ability that the Spurs need at the point guard, and he can shoot it well from three-point land, but he's able to control the game from both a slow and a quick pace. He can be fast, he can be slow as he pleases, he can play great isolation ball, and he's able to get his teammates open in transition, can read the floor very, very well. He's underrated as a defender as well. For what he does at the guard position, it's super serviceable, and it's one of the most underrated picking abilities in the entire association, with just short of 2 steals per game since the 2019-2020 season. Obviously, Fred VanVleet has a winning mentality. When he came into the finals back in 2019, there was an argument that he could have won Finals MVP for the way he played in all 6 games. He left every single bit of blood, sweat, and tears on those courts, and he straight up balled during the finals, and he hasn't really stopped since. He's consistent, he's great on both ends of the floor, and like I said, winning mentality. Championship DNA. That is so great for a young locker room looking to have a stretch of winning for quite some time. Obviously, the Spurs are looking to restart their dynasty of what they once were. Obviously, getting Victor Wembanyama and the pieces they have now. Fred VanVleet can be one of the most crucial players in that locker room, bringing in experience, bringing in scoring, bringing in defense. He really brings it all in, and that's what the Spurs need, and he would be such an amazing fit at the point guard position for the San Antonio Spurs and be a great floor general to start Wembanyama off in his NBA career. For the final and 5th player that I think the Spurs need to go after in this free agency, the man from Newark, Arkansas, Austin Reaves. I think this really just is like a Cinderella slipper fit for the Spurs. He's 25 years old. He's going into restricted free agency, so obviously he'll be a little harder to get, and I think the Lakers will try and match really whatever they get. But the Spurs need to make a move on Reaves immediately. Obviously, he sprung into stardom this year for the Lakers, and he was just a crafty guard. He could shoot it. He was very fun to watch. I mean, Reaves' play style personally reminds me of Manu Ginobili. He's shifty, and he can control the pace of the game as needed. He has a really great ability to get out in transition, whether he is a scorer of the transition or he's going to run it himself with his other teammates. I mean, he can really get out on the break. He can score on the break, and he can set the teammates up perfectly. I mean, he has a very, very, very crafty handle when it comes to finishing around the rim, and he can get by defenders as he pleases. He has a great bag of moves, of crossovers, of fancy little touches that he has implicated in his game to get by defenders and score at the rim as he needs. His shooting splits were 52.9 from the floor, 39.8 from beyond the arc, and 86.4 from beyond the line. And he is not afraid of the big moment. We saw a lot as he sprung more and more into this star player he is, how he was ready to take the big shot, how he was ready to close down the stretch, how he was ready when the ball was in his hands. He was ready to score or set a teammate up for even a better shot. Reaves plays super well. He's a team-first guy who loves to get wins. Whatever he has to do, he loves to get wins, whether he's going to score or he's going to set up a teammate and he is going to have a playmaking type of night. He wants to win basketball games. He gives 110% every single night on both ends of the floor, and everything about him just gives off Spurs energy. He would be one of the perfect fits for Wembanyama. He can play the point guard and he can run it, or he can play shooting guard and play on the wing. He can really do whatever you want in that guard position, and he can be a great fit whether he wants to come off the bench or be a starting point guard in some scenarios. I would love to see him, no matter where he's in. I want to see Austin Reaves in a Spurs jersey. I want to see it badly. I think he is one of the perfect fits for the franchise. I think he can be there for a long, long time if we get him. However, though, the Spurs cannot overpay him. I'm thinking anywhere between $75 and $90 million for 4 or 5 years. It's pretty appropriate for what he has become and what he can become under Greg Popovich and the rest of that coaching staff. But the Spurs, if they play their cards right, they could have one of their wings or their point guards for the long-term future, which is what the Spurs are known for. They're known for having 2 or 3 guys who are there for such a long time, who are elite, who can score, who win basketball games, who just give it all. That's what Austin Reaves does, and he could be such the perfect fit for the San Antonio Spurs and this Victor Wembanyama era. That is the end of this video. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys do agree with the 5 players that I've listed, please let me know in the comments. But if there's someone else you want to see on the Spurs going into next season, also let me know what you think. Let's start a great debate down in the comments below. Please drop a subscribe if you enjoyed this video so we can continue growing. A lot of my viewers are not subscribed. If that's you, let's change that today, guys. It's free and it only takes a couple of seconds. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And until next time, this is Ty Talk Sports signing off. See you guys.